Go.
Good evening, everybody, or afternoon in beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida. My name is Scott Morgan, Rock from Motor City Manmouth, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. And I am pleased to be joined by former Major League Baseball player Dick Schofield. And Dick, thanks for being on the broadcast. So obviously you played 14 Major League Baseball seasons, but being a Detroit guy like I am, I have to go back to August 29th, 1986 when you hit a walk-off grand slam versus the Detroit Tigers in a 13-12 Angels win over Detroit, an 8-run ninth inning. First of all, walk me through the home run. Is that one of the biggest home runs you've ever had?
Probably, most definitely. I don't recall hitting any grand slams that won a game, but yeah, it was just a weird night. It was 12-5 going into the 8th. I think I let it off with a single, and then it just a bunch of crazy stuff happened. I mean, it was obviously, guys having great at bats, and they came up to me, and I got down 0-2, and Willie Hernandez threw a screwball, and somehow I hit it. It went out, and that was it.
I mean, Willie was a heck of a player, obviously. In 1984, he won the Cy Young Award MVP in the Tigers World Series year. So, obviously, I'm sure you had an enormous amount of respect for the man that was on the hill.
No, without a doubt. That whole team was full of some great players. And I remember, Trent was shortstop. Being a shortstop, I always was kind of bummed out that he was in the American League the whole time. Because him or Ripken or Tony Fernandez or Pascal, all those guys got the gold gloves and whatnot. But yeah, Willie was there. He had quite a career himself, so it was a pretty exciting night.
Okay, so let's talk about the fact that you do come from a baseball family. I know Ducky's your father, and you're the uncle to Jason Worth. What's it like, Dick, to be around a family that's what I consider, you're like a baseball lifer in a sense?
Yeah, it was kind of just ingrained in me. I was probably 12 years old, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And thank goodness it worked out. But, I stayed healthy. But I was going through high school and whatnot, and I didn't really think about doing anything other than playing professional baseball. And, it worked out fine.
Do you have any particular highlights in your career that you want to talk about?
The playoffs with the Red Sox in '86. That was an awesome series. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way we wanted, but it was one of the better series, I think, probably in the last few decades. There's been a ton of great games, but that was a great series. I was on the '93 World Series team. I got a chance to sit there and watch that whole thing, so that was a highlight as well.
Very good. So, obviously last year you were supposed to be the manager for the Daytona Tortugas, but all of a sudden that thing called COVID-19 got in the way. What was it like for you knowing that you were preparing to manage a team, but all of a sudden that just didn't quite happen?
Yeah, it was just like any other spring, really. It was probably middle of March 14th or something. They said, hey, we're out of here. And I'm thinking, all right, this will last, 2 or 3 weeks, let it blow over. Now it's coming up on 2 years, a year and a half. But I was looking forward to it. I had never been down here. I was in the Florida State League on a rehab assignment in '93 before the World Series. And other than that, I knew it was extremely hot. But I love walking on the beach, that's for sure.
So you're one of 2 player development coaches with the Cincinnati Reds / Daytona Tortugas. Tell me what that responsibility is like for you.
Yeah, well, I'll do whatever they ask, but mainly just work with the infielders. Reggie does outfield and base running. Whatever they need infield-wise. Goopy does the same thing. Goopy was a big infielder himself. But it's just kind of random stuff. Throw batting practice, hit front goes, whatever, coach third base. Just do baseball stuff.
So last year, what was life like without baseball in 2020?
It wasn't that bad. I was really bummed, and then I realized I'm having a normal life now. I couldn't tell you last time I was home during the summer, but I'm sitting there, it's the middle of July, I'm thinking, I'll walk down to the lake and hang out or whatever, but I definitely missed it, but I didn't miss it as much as I thought I would.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I'm just being honest. I don't know. I was sitting there thinking, man, this is nice. And then when they said that later that year that, spring training's going to go, and normally right at the first of the year of that, coming year, it's time to go. And I felt the same feeling, like mid-January, I'm like, all right, it's time to go to spring training and do this. I've been doing it for, a few decades and whatnot. It was just what we do.
Well, being in the minor leagues, at least for a while, you find yourself in life developing players. So tell me what that is like on a daily basis for you.
Sometimes it's like having your 10-year-old, telling them the same thing over and over.
Is it?
But it's very rewarding when they get it. And a lot of times you don't have to really say anything. You just have to be here for them and just make sure that they're, staying within the railings, not going too far outside. But it's just a number of things. I mean, a ton of life lessons that you get in this game. It's probably more important some of the baseball things you get. But, out of the 30 guys we got in there, I don't know, 2 or 3 might have a career, maybe not, and 5 or 6, maybe 8 will make it, but not having a career. So there's a lot of things you learn doing this that will prepare you for after.
Now, I know last year this would have been the Florida State League, and for a lot of years the Florida State League was considered the advanced league. Now, obviously, things have changed with the dynamics of how Major League Baseball has set up with low A ball. Do you find that is any bit of a difference in terms of not only the quality of the player that you have, but obviously the mindset for the individuals that you're dealing with compared to the other level?
Definitely. I mean, there's kids here that this is their first full year. So this is basically like the rookie year. You're playing 120 games when normally you play 70 or whatever that was. So it's a big adjustment for them. And, on a nightly basis, we can look like the Cincinnati Reds or we can look like the Middle League team down the street. It's just the inconsistency of their performance or plays. That's why they're here. And at some point in time when that consistency is leveled out, and that's when they go shoot consistent, and then they maybe do things.
As a player development coach, Dick, okay, you've got a lot more tools to work with. I believe you guys probably use iPads nowadays. And explain the technology that goes into what you guys use as not only coaches, as players, compared to when you were actually playing the game itself.
Yeah, it's night and day. I'm pretty challenged when it comes to all that stuff. They have this thing called True Media, and it just, you go on there and you put in the guy's name, and it shows every at bat that you would want to see. So I put in, we have all right-handers, so I put in right-handers and ground balls, and it shows every ground ball they hit off right-handed hitting. And you just kind of, that's my go-to. And then as you watch the teams play, then your eyes take over, and you're like, well, okay, there's so much information that it just gets overwhelming. I mean, was the guy throwing 95 or was he throwing 88? You don't know what the speed of that ball was that they hit. Was it a curveball, was it a changeup, slider, whatever? But it's the probabilities of what's going to happen, and it definitely helps out. I'm probably too old school, to talk about all the new stuff, but I love it. I know it's part of the game. It's going to stay in the game. I just hope they continue to trust the older guys and the scouts that sit up there and watch the games and just have eyes on what's going on, because sometimes those can be a little misleading.
Yeah, so explain to a lot of the old school people how you used to prepare for an opponent in a game versus now the new school technology that's implemented today.
Yeah, you basically went off the path. If you faced them 3 months ago, you went back, and I remember video was just coming in the mid-'80s maybe. And you're on these little black and white screens, and the video guy, and you're sitting there trying to, you didn't even know it was you basically playing, and then it's, technology is just, it's crazy and stuff, but I just think it's just experience. You go off the coaches and say, Bobby Cannot with the Angels, he had a ruler and he had a pencil, he'd show where each guy hit the ball.
Right.
And it's the same thing that is on that, it's just that that took about, 10 seconds to do this, takes 10 minutes to sit there and do all this stuff. And it's the same thing. It's just so advanced that like I said, it's the information. Anything you want to know or get, you can find.
Do you wish you had this technology during your playing days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially opposing pitchers, you know, seeing just every pitch from a center field view. You can see, you know, somebody says, "Hey, this ball really runs," or whatever, and then you're like, "All right, whatever." But you get in the box and you think, "Well, it's not that much, or it's way more than," you know. So again, your eyes are your guide to what's going on. So. It's just I probably wouldn't use all the information because I'd get overwhelmed with so much stuff. And but there's people that are so good at that, and that's what they do. You know, they say, "Hey, this and that." But I rely a lot on just seeing it and then trusting that.
Now, obviously, the one thing I've always been impressed with the Cincinnati Reds, because back in 1984 to 86, I covered Cincinnati Reds Class A team when they resided in Tampa. They were the Tampa Carpets. And the thing I've always noticed about the Reds is they always do a really good job spending money in player development. Do you find that the resources and the player development that they have is really, really strong, and that helps you guys out quite a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I really have no idea what their budget is for, you know, players or whatnot, but they've always put quality kids, got kids into the system. I know as you go up and at the major league level, you know, you got the Yankees, the Dodgers, and, you know, everybody else, but they can spend whatever. I can't speak for the Reds, but I think they probably have to watch how they go about, you know, giving some kid $3-4 million, and then, you know, it doesn't pan out. But they definitely give you the opportunity to do a good job.
Being a 14-year major league player, Dick, as you are, how much more credibility does it give you as a coach when you're trying to talk to young players? Hey, you know what? I've been there, done that, been to the big show, versus a guy that didn't play as long as you did in the big leagues. Because, you know, in reality, you have seen a great deal over the years, and I know that you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to pass down to them.
I'm not sure if it plays that big a role or not. Sometimes I've had kids ask me if, you know, "Hey, Scoey, did you play?" So I'm just thinking, wow, they didn't do their homework, which is fine, because I knew when I played, they didn't have the internet. I had that baseball almanac book, and I would look up, all right, who's my coach? And I'd see, you know, Bobby Canado, and just go down the list, Bob Clear, the old school guys. And but it holds a little bit of weight, but this is a whole different generation of humans, and I've done this for a couple of decades, maybe not that long, but I've noticed from day one to now, they're just, you know, you're different.
What's it like to deal with this generation of players, Dick?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I mean, they're all good kids. It's just we were talking about a record player a few weeks back, and they're like, "What do you mean?" Like, you know, I was like, "You actually had a 45 or whatever those were,"
I know.
And their whole life is right here. You know, from, you know, these guys are probably the oldest is 24 and the youngest is 19. So just look back 20 years, you know, when whatever was going on in the world, that's their life, and so that's all they know.
I have to tell you a funny story. When I was covering a Detroit Tigers Tampa Bay Rays game over at Tropicana Field, I go to Troy Percival and asked him, you know, I told him that Mike Maroth did not know who Mickey Lolich was. And he walked up to him, "You don't know who Mickey Lolich is?" I said, "Really?" And I guess what amazes me, though, Dick, is that a lot of younger players don't know about the history of the game and what really went ahead. The reason why they're here is because of the incredible history of the game.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, I coached in the Angels system prior to this, and I was asking about players like in the 80s that I played with, and some didn't know who Reggie Jackson was back in that day. Like Brock Corey, Bobby Bridge, Becky Sensei, Bob Roode, and they're looking at me, and I'm thinking, well, you know, they weren't even born, so I can't. But I know I have kind of the head start because of my dad. My dad, I can still go back and he talks about the 50s and 60s. I'm like, "Dad, I wasn't even born." And then he's like, "Well, this guy was, you know, the Pirates team, and he played against Mickey Mantle, and, you know, played against Jackie Robinson back in the day in Brooklyn and stuff like that." So I was fortunate to have that, and I don't think like their father is a doctor, they probably know a lot more about the body, than obviously I would. But to answer your question, to have weight on, do they basically trust what you say? And I don't think I don't want to say they don't care. It's just they've had so much information, like I said, through all this stuff that goes on, is that what I did 30 years ago doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't. And I try to keep up with it. The game is still the same. It's just the way we're approaching it, the instructing it is kind of getting outside the boundaries a little bit. I think personally, if they bring it back in and still use all the technology and stuff, it's going to be a great game. It is a great game.
Yeah, if you were to tell a kid what an 8-track player is or a cassette tape, good luck. That's a foreign language, so for sure. I know we both know what those are, don't we?
Yeah, I've seen those things on my grandfather gives an old rotary phone to a kid, say, hey, dial this number, and they don't know how to do it. And that just shocks me that you don't know, 2, 1, 3, and sometimes they'll hold it, they'll just dial it. Have you ever seen that? I don't know if you've ever seen that. I find it really interesting, but and I can't, back in the day, I can't, somebody asked me something about what happened in the 50s or whatever. I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, rotary phones, come on, man. Those are different animals. We got these little cell phones. We got a cell phone here recording this broadcast to begin with. Unbelievable stuff. So we're in the minor leagues right now. So obviously the one thing that baseball likes to do is use this as a way to go ahead and test out rules such as a pitch clock, the man on second, and I know robot umpires are inevitable. What are your thoughts about the fact that the minor leagues, Dick, is actually being used to implement potentially new rule changes? I know we've seen MLB use a couple of them anyways, and I'm not so sure a couple of them will last, but it is a proving ground or a testing ground for what the game could be or what it won't be. Because it's a great game, and I know they're trying to make changes with it here and there, but let's face reality, the way you coach obviously has to be coached a little bit around the hand that you've been dealt in terms of the variance of the rules.
Yeah, I mean, like the 2 picks to, first base or second or third with that particular batter, that's not so bad. The one that, at the high end, you have to step off the throw over. And so for a team that can run, I would think they just run rampant. That doesn't make sense to me to do that. Pick over twice, but if you can control your times of the play, then it really doesn't matter. 1, 2, 1, 3, whatever. You normally don't steal second, but the automated strike zone, not a big fan of it, but again, it's all good. I think I like the human aspect of the game. I just do. That may change in a year or two, but they're human. They're gonna be wrong. It's just the way it is. We're wrong, more times than not. But I just, I don't know. I don't know about pitching, but when you have that thing, you're this far off. It's a ball, human eyes, that's probably a strike. So, to each his own. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it.
Are there any particular players over the years that you really enjoy playing with that stand out?
There's a lot. I mean, I just, at the Angels, my first couple of years, I had all these, like the guys I just mentioned, Rich Dickinson, Mark Carew, Fred Lynn, Bob Boone, George Henry was a huge fan of George Henry. Went to Toronto, played at Paul Mahler, who I was kind of a fan from afar as a kid, watching him in Milwaukee, and then Robbie Alomar was one of the best players I played with. So there's a time I was with the Mets, and there's a lot of great players there. I was on there one year, everybody was hurt, so it was kind of I was thought, this is for Eddie Murray, Eddie something. There's just a ton of people that you respect and are fortunate to have played with.
You obviously were under a lot of different managers as well. Are there any particular managers that not only stand out as a manager, but potential mentors and leaders of men that you've either drawn from or that you really admire?
Yeah. Gene Mauch, I didn't like, and then I grew. I was like, the only reason you don't like him is because you don't agree with him. So it's like,
right.
That's so. I as I matured, hopefully a little bit, I understood his way of what he was thinking, and I really got to enjoy him he was there. I was on maybe 3 or 4 years as my manager. You know, I had a lot of great Cito Gaston.
Right.
Toronto. I really liked him. He was just, he was here no matter what.
Keel, right.
Very, very good baseball guy. I loved playing up there. Jeff Drawboard, Doug Brandon, Cookie Rojas was there for 1 year. I really liked Cookie with the Angels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I took a little bit from all of them, and try to remember things through the years and try to apply them outwards.
I know a few more questions, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up. I know that you nearly managed this club last year. Do you still have any burning desires to be a manager, not only in the minor leagues, but the major leagues as well?
If that opportunity comes about, for sure. But I was talking to Reggie Williams a couple weeks back, and I said, I'm not sure if I have. This is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. If they want me to manage, I'll manage. The big league thing, I think, is. I shouldn't say this, but I think it's coming on. It might have been an opportunity here or there. It's just if somebody likes you, or if they think you're any good, obviously you got to go. You can't just bring your friend along because he's your buddy. But sometimes that happens. But you still have to have some knowledge and be able to deal with what's going on.
When you deal with some of the old managers in the past, old school, we've talked about that a lot. How do you think they would have to deal with today's modern pitcher, knowing that there's a lot of money invested into these arms, and that you can't push these guys like you did before, knowing that the financial situation is definitely a lot more greater than it was in the past? I know one guy that stands out that I don't think can manage in this era would be Millie Martin, even though we know we'd love to see a guy like them. But today's modern day pitcher, player, yesteryear, if you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I mean, I would think they'd have to evolve a little bit with the game, to understand what's going on. I mean, look at Dustin Baker. He's been one of the best managers he's been managing for I don't know. But he could probably tell you stories when he first started. Now what his mindset is, I can't speak for them because I have no idea how they thought or what they were thinking. But I think it would be tough on them because the old school thing is different than now. And I hate to say old school because it's not really old. It's just what it was,
right?
And when things evolve, I mean, there's things that have changed, and I'm like, okay, I get it. That's pretty cool. But, I still revert back to just the simple things. That's what you got to know. And try to pass that on.
Talk about the influence of your dad, Ducky Schofield, what he meant to your career, not only growing up, but obviously being a baseball lifer. How everybody knows that baseball is a generational type of game anyways, which matriculates fathers, sons, relatives, and so forth. We see it with the Boones, we see it with a lot of different families. Those are things that come into mind as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was always there when I think I was 9 when he retired. And so he coached me from the time I was 9 to about 15. And he wanted me to go play. Back then it was called Legion Ball, right? And senior league, which was actually 19 or whatever. I was 17 and they let me play in this league. And that was probably one of the best things he ever allowed me to do, because I was playing against college kids when I was a junior in high school. And 30-year-old guys that I knew growing up that were like, you just had heard of them but never really met them. I'm sitting out there in Langford Park in Springfield, Illinois, playing against them, like, oh, this is pretty cool. So stuff like that where he recognized that if I'm going to prolong this or take this to another level, I'm going to have to compete against some pretty good competition, and then you kind of find out where you stand, and I thought I did pretty well. I was like, all right, I can do this. Even though at 12 I thought I was going to do it, but until you really see, you go in the pro ball, a lot of these guys, they really, wow, there's a lot of talent. It's not just in your bubble, it's the world, and that's when I got out of Illinois and, playing professionally. I was like, wow, there is a ton of talent. This was 30-some years ago.
When people play in Daytona, okay, obviously they think of the beaches, but the Daytona Tortugas have an incredible history. And I think what makes today so special is not only being a part of the history with the Daytona Tortugas, but they play in Jackie Robinson Park. When you talk about history in baseball, Dick, it doesn't get any better than that you could walk into a stadium like Jackie Robinson Ballpark knowing that, you know what, this guy was a very polarizing type of individual. What's it like to come to work knowing that Jackie Robinson Park is your office?
It's pretty cool. You know, to be honest with you, I never heard of it until I coached with the Angels, the Reds. Like when I came here, and they go out there and you read the things along the wall, and you're like, wow, okay, this is some serious stuff. But my dad told me stories about playing against him and the bad things that were said, and I was like, really? He goes, oh yeah. And he's probably 19ish, 20, and Jackie was probably 30. I don't know how when he got to the big leagues. But anyways, yeah, I think it's really special. I think it's cool that I think this is the oldest minor league park that they play in.
Right.
Someone told me that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I didn't know he played down here until I got here, and then I read all the stuff. And I already knew his story. I watched just about everything he did on it, but to be here and just kind of feel it, it's pretty cool.
And to think that last year you had an opportunity potentially to manage here, and then all of a sudden they were on the verge of taking the team away, but somehow, some way, cooler heads, common sense prevailed, that another team was eliminated, but the Daytona Tortugas, to me, are alive and well. That has to make you feel pretty good that you just had baseball history, and they didn't take away a very good franchise here from an area that has such a rich history.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of thought put into that. You know, obviously I had nothing to do with that, but I'm glad they did. Because now we have a job. You know, I mean, it sounds like they got a pretty good standing with the owners and they want to stay put here. I think that this is the only team that's not at a complex in the Southeast League, whatever we call it now. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I'm not a fan of turf, but I tell you what, when it rains, it's really easy to just get out there and go. But it's good for taking ground balls, because you don't have to ask the groundskeeper every 5 seconds that, hey, we're going to use it for whatever. But, yeah, pretty special.
Well, I was joking around with Justin that the last time I was here, I only saw 4.5 innings, and it got rained out. My goal tonight is 9. But on a final note here on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, my name is Scott Morgan. Please be joined by Dick Schofield, the guy that I grew up watching. And I know you probably know a good friend of mine, Mark Luttel, probably as well. Mark is a common guest on one of my broadcasts on a continuous basis. But let's not kid ourselves. Anybody that knows anything about history realizes that Fox had themselves a great production last night with the Field of Dreams game between the Yankees and the White Sox over in Iowa. You know, what are your thoughts about the fact that you're on a Field of Dreams for young guys all the time, but yet you have a chance to see a movie come full circle, hoping that maybe if baseball keeps up with trends here, that they can keep this thing going like hockey does at the Winter Classic. This is loaded stuff, and certainly a trending topic.
Yeah, I saw just a little bit of it after a game. Right? They had it on the computer, and then by the time I got home, I think Anderson had just hit the home run or whatever. But I was thinking today, maybe, I don't know what, I was like, how cool would it be if that was a weekly thing? You know, any central, from Kansas City to Minnesota to Chicago, they always had an American League or a National League team play, say like on a Friday night or Monday, whatever. The team would fly there, play one game, and then go to their cities. And that would be so cool. I know it takes a lot of money, but I don't know why I was thinking. I was like, you can do this way more than just once a year. But that's easy for me to say because I don't have to schedule anything. But I thought it was special. The movie was probably the best baseball movie I saw. Bull Durham was a comedy part of it, but that was I've seen it on the Field probably a handful of times. You miss a lot of things even you go back home.
So is Dyersville on your bucket list like everybody on the planet?
I was going to Google it last night, and I didn't know what the name of the city was, and then someone told me today it was Dyersville or whatever. But yeah, I think it'd be cool to take a little road trip, just walk on the field and take off.
Well, all I can tell you, Dick, it's been a pleasure having you on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morganoff. Once again, glad to be joined by Dick Schofield. Dick, of course, as I mentioned at the top of the show, yes, for Detroit Tigers fans, on one given night, he had that grand slam home run. and the LA Angels beat the Tigers, but I got news for you, Dick. For me, it's been a grand slam having the opportunity to work with the Daytona Tortugas and having an opportunity to talk baseball with a old school lifer like you, who, by the way, happens to be a JFK baby. You were born in 1962, and so was I. And I have to admit, there aren't many of us around. So, but with that said, Dick, thank you very much for being gracious with your time, and assist to Justin Rock as well for making this happen. So, thank you very much for being on the show. We really appreciate it, and we hope that the Daytona Tortugas have a nice win tonight. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
So much.